Stampers. My name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. And this is, got a mouthful of fur. This is my buddy Puccini. He helps me in the craft room and keeps me company and generally stirs up trouble. Last video he was asleep, so I put a still in with I gave him his birthday hat and a bow tie, which he of course didn't wear. He just chased around the house and demolished. So we have a fun card for you. It's a fun fold, and in the last video I did a swap video, and this was one of the swaps that I did. And so I'm going to show you how to make this card, only I made mine a Christmas card. And so there's that card, and let's just get started. To remind you again, this is the swap, and it was done by Wanda Williams, who I think got her idea from Tammy White. And I don't know whether it was Tammy's card that had the gnome and this thing, or just the fold, but this is a fold. It's been around for a while, and there's all kinds of various versions of it, but the card stands nicely, and it has this little extra dimension to it, so it's kind of a fun one. And so my card is this one, and I did this with paper from the Boughs of Holly, and it's a 12 by 12 suite. And I did this one, and I thought, since right now we're looking for Christmas cards and things to do, this one's actually not difficult. So let me tell you what you need to make this card. You need a piece of, in this case I used real red, you need a piece of cardstock that is 11 inches by 4 1/4. Then you need another piece that is 2.5 by 8. I made my designer series paper for this back panel 4 by 4, so that if you chose to do this card, you could get 3 back panels out of one 4-inch slice. It's just a little bit more economical. Then you need a 3/4 by 4-inch piece for across the bottom, and then the piece that's going on here, the red, this one is 4 3/4 by 2 1/4. And then we have, you need a scrap of white. You need a scrap of white to do your sentiment. And then what I did is I used this punch, and the name escapes me right just this minute, and some of the designer series paper that has this pattern on it. And what I did was I was able to use this and get almost every single poinsettia flower cut out using this, just going back and forth across the paper. And I'll probably use this in a card class, so I went ahead and cut a bunch of them. But this is a nice big punch and captures most of that poinsettia, and I think it looks good showing the white around it. So I've got one of those, and then you also need a scrap of real red, because to back the sentiment. And then I used some of the garden green ribbon that comes in that double spool this year, that's red and green for the Christmas. I used the Leaves of Holly Season's Greetings stamp on this one to put my stamp on the inside, and then on the inside of the card I just used a strip of this poinsettia paper to bring a little bit of that outside to the inside. How do you put this together? Well, first of all, again, this is 11 by 4 1/4, and what you do is you score at 1 inch and at 2 inches, and then you turn it around and you score it at 4 1/2 inches. And that allows you to have this part, which is the back of the card, this part which folds forward, and this little two-step mechanism here that makes the card stand up. So once you get your score lines done, the next thing is to just burnish those score lines really well so that the card does what you want it to in the way of standing up and I've got Puccini hair everywhere. And so there we go. That's all scored and then ready to go. Now then, this piece of designer series paper, the 4x4, goes on this in the back. And I'm just going to use my, oh, that's pretty too. That would make a pretty background, wouldn't it? Ooh, I kind of like that. Might like it better than the trees. I think I'm going to go off camera and erase that piece of, we might as well change it up as long as we're going to do it. I'm going to erase this bead of glue and then we'll put this on with this in the background. I think I like it better than the trees. I'll be back in a flash. Okay, here is my 4x4 piece and I am going to put my snail on here and put this piece into place so that my margins are even across the top. This little piece on the bottom doesn't matter as much because the card, it doesn't show much. Okay, now this piece has to be scored at 3 inches on one side, and this was 2.5 by 8, so I've got a piece that's 3 inches long and a piece that's 5 inches long. And what's going to happen is this is going to glue onto the back, and then it's going to glue onto the front here, and then our designer series paper will cover that up on this side, and this designer series paper will go here and then get covered up like that. That's really attractive. I like that a lot. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is adhere our designer series paper onto our card piece here. And we're going to set that down so it has the same margin all the way around. The next thing to do is to figure out how far down to set this on the back of the card, because we want it to still end up being 5.5 inches tall. So I'm going to add some glue along the bottom and then up a little bit. Okay, that looks like about right. And what I did was put this score mark at 5.5 inches and put this at the bottom of my grid paper so that I know that when I stand this up, it's at exactly 5.5 inches. I'm going to remove that pencil mark from the back. I was working with embossing powder earlier, so I've kind of got it all over the place here. And then this piece is going to move forward and just attach right down here on the bottom. So I'll put a little bit of seal along this bottom edge, close this up, and put that in place. And then we've got that just perfect for standing up. Next, we need to put this piece across the bottom here to hide that seam. Okay, and this piece is going to go right across here at the bottom. So I'll add some seal to this. You know, I think I like this better than the trees. I think it'll still all work. Let's see. So I'm going to put this piece across here. Straight would be good. And there we go. There's that piece there. Now on the inside we do need a piece of white for our sentiment, and this piece is 4 inches by 4 1/4, and that is going to go right in here on the inside. And I'm going to add some seal to that, and it just occurs to me to put on my strip. What I'm going to do is bring out my silicone mat here, because this has already got glue on it, and then I've got a piece of the designer series paper. Where did it go? Here. That is 5/8 of an inch, and I want lots of that poinsettia to show, so I'm going to put it on so that it goes across like that, and then we'll just trim it to fit to get it right on there the way we want it. Okay, so I'm going to set this down with a tiny little margin on the bottom, and mostly having the poinsettia pieces show, just like that. Now what I can do is trim those sides down. There we go. Now then, this piece is ready to go on the inside of my card. So there we go, with a little margin all the way across, and excellent. Now we have our stamping to do. So I have a piece of white scrap. I set that up on my Stamparatus here. And so I'm just going to use my real red ink. Well, that came off of there. That's no good. So just so long as you set it, and on this one, I set it in 1/4 of an inch and on one of these inch lines across the bottom. And then put my magnet in place. And then I've got my real red ink. Move a few of these things out of the way. And I'm going to use another ink pad that I have out here to support this door while I'm inking this up. And I'm going to add some red ink here on my sentiment. Season's Greetings. And I'm going to set that down here. Doing it on my Stamparatus because, oh, that came out almost perfect. It looks like it's needs a little bit more ink to one side. So let me stamp it again just to make absolutely sure, and there we go. Nicely done. All right. Then what I did was, from the Holly Berry die set, there's this tag right here. And what I did was, once I got my greeting done, then I used that tag to cut out my sentiment. And to save a little bit of time, I've already got mine done. And then I also cut a piece of red. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to cut this piece of red in half. And I'm going to add a little bit of snail to the back of this greeting on both sides, so that I can extend it and get this effect that I've got here. And so I'm just going to add this right here on the end, line the two of them up, and push that down, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, trying to get it to exactly the same size as the one on this side. And there we've got a little extension on our tag. Okay, so I think we're ready to do some final assembly here. So I have already cut one of my circles here, And I'm going to put that on with a couple of dimensionals. I like this a little bit towards the top. Then I have my Season's Greetings, which I put a little bit cattywampus on here. And I'm going to give it a little support on the back side with a couple of small dimensionals. Let's see, let me make sure I'm doing that right. Yes, these go right down here on the bottom, and I'm just going to put a couple of them just so that that's appropriately supported. And then I'm going to add some snail across the top. And add that to my card right across here. I was carefully trying not to get any adhesive where that would stick to this part of the card. And I've got to get this dimensional paper off of here. There we go, just like that. Okay, and here is my green ribbon from the red and green ribbon pack. It's garden green and real red, and I'm going to make a small bow. You know, this might be better off with a knot bow. That bow looks a little bit big. Maybe I'll just do a knot bow here because the profile is just a little bit smaller. And I'm going to trim my tails here pretty short. So I've got my knot bow, and yep, I think that's going to be much nicer on there because the other is just almost too big. So I'm going to use a glue dot to secure that in place. And just right in along in here. I'm going to put 2 of them down. And let's see what side of the bow. I think I want this side up. So I'm going to put that in place right across here. And now that says Season's Greetings. And my card stands up. And there we go. There we go. Now then, it feels like it needs a little something more because I don't have any of that pattern. So one of the things I thought about was I have this set up for another project I have, and it says Peace and Joy. And this Peace and Joy comes from, I think, that same stamp set. Yes, it does. So it is here, and it's Peace and Joy, and I put it on a stamp set here, and I think I'm going to put that on the inside, and then we just need a little bit of an embellishment on the front of this card, and I think we're there. So I'm going to add my Peace and Joy right in here on the inside of the card. There we go. And then to the outside, I have some red rhinestones here, and I thought maybe we could use some of these, and I could just put a couple on either side of this and dress this up a little bit. And then maybe put a cluster of these in my big flower center here. 3 of them, like that. And there we go. That is a fun little fold and can be done using any number of things. I saw one that was done similar to that with the witch's hat and the feet swinging, and then the gnome that we used that was Wanda's card for the inspiration for this. But I think that makes a pretty Christmas card, and you can decide which of those. You'll have to let me know what you think, whether you like the busier pattern and or not. I can't really say that I like either one of them any better. I do like the smaller bow though. So you'll have to weigh in and let me know what you're thinking. But that is my project for the day. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, well, I'd love to be your demonstrator. Or you could join my team. There's an offer going on right now that's $155 worth of product for $99, and it's about $30 more than the regular join offer, so it's a pretty good deal. And would love to have more people on my team. I had a subscriber just join yesterday, and so it is a good time to join. And right now, joining now in October, your first minimum isn't due until the end of March. So your membership gets you discounts through Celebration and the new catalog after the first of the year and all kinds of things. So that is what's going on with Stampin' Up! And I always have a monthly draw, and my winners earn a $60 shopping spree on me. And all you do to get yourself in the drawing is to place an order of any size on my store, lbedinger.stampinup.net, and you can get to it through my blog, www.ingenuity.com. Well, that's it for me, and I will be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips.